Buckle up, Buttercup, because these are all the books I'm going to be talking about today. Hello, everyone. My name is Yedilyn, and welcome to another video. To the people that were telling me in the last video to get a mic, thank you so much, genuinely, because now I have a mic, and it's great, and I love it. I got this idea, this paintbrush idea. I saw an Instagram reel, and it was a lady, and I forgot what she was talking about, probably about something art related, genuinely. And she had her mic be attached to a paintbrush, and I liked that idea. So, just letting you know, this is not my original thought, but I found it and I saw it and I thought it was cool. So, we're doing that. Maybe. I'm still getting used to using a mic. So, today I have 4 honorable mentions and I have 10 favorites as promised. So, here in my notebook, I have them written down for you. I'm not going to say them because that's the point. You're going to know them little by little. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the 4 right here. I'm going to start with the top 4 honorable mentions, the only 4 honorable mentions, and then I'm going to work my way up from 10 to 1. Now, quick side note here, I'm so used to talking just without my face in it. I'm so used to just putting some headphones on, having my mic, and just recording the podcast and just not having to show my face at all. So this is pretty new to me. And even though I did talk about dreams, the audio quality was so bad and I was behind a blank wall and not behind all my paintings. So new environment, new changes, but it's new and it's great and we're going to get through this. So, starting up with the first one, we have monsters, superstition, and tradition. Now, a quick note for all of these books, I love them all. Just because I have to rank them, it's unfortunate, but some books I'm just going to like them better than others. Some of these books are really popular and some of these you haven't heard of. Not to be that person, but like I there's a story behind this one. That's all I'm saying. Some of these you're going to hear and some of these you have heard, and some of these you have not. So that's just the way things go. So we're going to start off with Monsters, Superstition, and Tradition by Talon Martin. Now, some of these names of the authors, I'm just not going to pronounce them. I'm just going to show you the book, and you can see the author through there, or I'm going to have like the author name somewhere on the screen. As you can see, this one is really annotated because in this book, they're categorized by their quote danger rating. So I have a different color like tab. So that's the only reason why this one's like super duper tabbed up. But yeah. So why do I like this book? Well, I like this book because it is comprehensive and it has a lot of different details about a bunch of them, and there's pictures as well. Let me show you an example. Oh my gosh. Let me show you an example. Here we go. Here's a picture of a Jumbi. Now, I don't know how accurate these pictures are. Obviously, these are like artistic representations, or like artistic photographs. There's one in here about like this. Like I can show you an example of like an artistic photograph. Like obviously this is not a real photograph that was taken. It's just an artistic representation. But I like this book because it has so many cool like names, and there's some of these that you've heard of. So, for example, I could show you one that everybody knows, which is the famous Bigfoot. And I could show you another really famous one, which would be somewhere here near the front, Bloody Mary. So they have the popular ones, and then they have ones that nobody's ever heard. I had no idea what Tommy knockers were before I read this book. So the thing that I find interesting about this book is that this book, I'm finding it really hard to find another copy of it. Like when I search up how to like get this book, it's like so hard to find. I think it might have been someone's like passion project or something. And if you're wondering how I got my hands on this book, I just found it um at like a half price bookstore. And so that's how I got it. But, you know, those types of stores you can find all sorts of books in there. So when I tried to look, cuz I was like this is a really good book. I'd like to recommend it to a couple people. But when I went to go research it, I was like, why is it so hard for me to find more copies of it? So it's probably somewhere if I dig deep enough, but this is one of those books where it's like it's just magical how it came into my hands, but I don't know where I'm going to find another one. So that one's at the bottom of the honorable mentions, not because I don't like the book. I love all these books on all this. I love the books on this entire list. But when I compare it to the other three books that I picked for honorable mentions, this one just doesn't stand out as much, but it has to be on there because it's such a special book because I don't know if I'm ever going to find another one. Okay. The next one we have on here is one that's very dear to me, and actually I realized that unlike the other books that I have, I actually need to actually grab this one and it's not at arm's length, so I will do that right now. The Prophet. This is one of the earliest books I remember reading, not as like a kid, because I don't think a kid should be reading this book, but more so as in like it was one of the first books that I remember reading while I was really invested in reading. Now I need to read more, but that's the point. The point is, I'm going to be making videos like this. If I make videos talking about books, naturally, I have to read more books so I can talk about more books. And even though my channel is a ginormous range of all sorts of different things, and I'm going to talk about absolutely anything and everything on this channel, I do also want to talk about the things that I want to be better at and the things I'm passionate about. So one of those things is I need to read more. So, henceforth, this video, henceforth, future book videos. So, stop talking about this book. It was advertised to me as a book of poems, like a poetry book, but it's kind of like a weird prose philosophy book. So I'm going to read you a passage from this book. I'm just going to pick sorry, a random one. There's one in here that I underlined, like I know I did, and I don't like making marks. At this point in time, when I got this book, I think I might have been like maybe, I think 11 or so. I think when I got this book, 12, 11, 12, maybe. It's kind of hazy, but I've had this book for a long time. Um, Suffer not yet our eyes to hunger for your face. And ever has it been that love knows not its own depth until the hour of separation. This entire book has so many pretty lines like that. And shall it be said that my eve was in truth my dawn? A seeker of silences am I, and what treasure have I found in silences that I may dispense with confidence? Now, these are just ones that I underlined because it's the easiest to find, and if I underlined it in the past, I must have loved these lines in particular. So, deep is your longing for the land of your memories and the dwelling place of your greater desires, and our love would not bind you, nor our needs hold you. Now, I don't know if this book is supposed to have like oh my goodness. I just found a I just found a bunch more. I underlined a bunch of stuff in there. Okay. I'm going to read one more thing because I don't want to be talking about this book for too long. Okay. Not that one. Okay. Here's the last thing I'm going to read from this book. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping. For only the land of life can contain your hearts. And stand together yet, not too near together, for the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. So I can't pronounce, or I guess it's not so much that I can't pronounce, but I kind of don't want to mispronounce the author's name. So I'm going to just show you the author's name. Right there. That's the author's name. I would much rather just show you the name than embarrass myself by mispronouncing it wrong. So, this one has a star next to it. This passage has stars next to it. But I did tell you that I was done reading from this book. So, thoughts on this book. This book is good, and I picked this book under my honorable mentions because one, this book is super duper old in the sense that I've had this book for a really long time, and I've reread this book multiple times. Two, can we talk about this cover? I don't know if it's supposed to have like a cover, like a paper cover, and it got like taken away, or if it was just because I don't remember. I don't remember. But here's the book. Now, some of my books don't have annotations in them. Some of them aren't gonna have tabs in it because it wasn't until I want to say maybe a couple years ago that I actually started annotating my books. But even so, even some of the books that I read today aren't always annotated. It just depends on what I'm feeling and how pretty the book is. Because sometimes if a book is too pretty, I will not annotate in it. I know. But there's very few books that I think are too pretty for me to not annotate. Okay, that's all I have for this one. Quick summary. It's about a prophet, obviously. He basically gets asked a bunch of questions about love, about family, about religion, and he just speaks his thoughts on it. And it's very poetic because the way he explains it, the way the book is written, I think is very poetic. So it's really like a philosophy mixed with the poetry kind of thing. All right. Moving on to the next one, we have The Secret History by Donna Tartt. The reason this one made it onto the honorable mentions and not the top 10 is because there are a lot of other books that I love a lot more than this one, but this one was really close to being number 10. This was my favorite book for like the longest time, and I don't think I have very many annotations in this one, unfortunately. Not because I think it's too pretty, but because I was so like entranced in the book that I wasn't even thinking about underlining things. But there are some things that I underlined in this one. Okay. She, I thought, was very beautiful in an unsettling, almost medieval way which could not be apparent to the casual observer. That's one way to describe someone. I walked down the hall with spirits soaring. I don't know why I underlined that. Some of the pages actually have stuff written in them, but most of them don't. A little bit of context for this book. I oftentimes hear this book being connected to the dark academia aesthetic and kind of a critique of the dark academia aesthetic. That's the reason why I wanted to get my hands on this book because I had heard so much about the dark academia aesthetic, and back in 2020 I was obsessed with it. I loved the dark academia aesthetic. I wanted to embody the dark academia aesthetic to its very core, but it took me years to actually get my hands on this book. I didn't get this book until I think maybe about a year ago. It hasn't been that long. It hasn't been that long. But this book made me want to read Donna Tartt so much. But if you know anything about Donna Tartt, you know that she writes a book and then she disappears for like 10 years and then she comes back and then she disappears for 10 more years and then she comes back and then she just like she has one book out like every 10 years. And she's very, I want to say like she's very like away from the media. Like there's not very much publicity about her. She really likes her privacy. And you know what? Whatever works, whatever works. But I feel like You can't have an author like that nowadays. I feel like you have to be constantly marketing yourself to the masses if you want to be noticed as a writer. But Donna Tartt. Donna Tartt makes it work. A little bit of a summary, a little bit about the plot. It's about this guy that enters this really fancy Spancy school, and there's really rich students there, and the students do something that's not good, and it's kind of just following them as they try to figure out what they do about what they did without giving any spoilers. Because I'm not trying to give spoilers in this video. All right, the next one we talk about is the last one. We already made it through 3 books. Oh my goodness. The last one I'm going to talk about is one that you'll probably be shocked is an honorable mention and not in my top 10 with the kind of person that I am. Chronicles by Bob Dylan. Now, if you know anything about me, you know that I love Bob Dylan from the bottom of my heart. I love everything that he does. I love his work. I love this book. But why is it, if I love the book so much, why is it an honorable mention and not my top 10? Well, this book kind of goes all over the place. There's so many references to so many artists and bands in this book that if you don't know what's going on and you don't already know the people that he's talking about, it can get really messy really fast. Trying to see if I can find any like good quotes. Oh, I like this quote. If you told the truth, that was all well and good, and if you told the untruth, well, that's still well and good. Folk songs had taught me that. Now, a little bit of context for if you're not super into Bob Dylan. He was a artist that is still alive, by the way, because some people think he's dead. He's not dead. Don't say that. Um, he's an artist that started in the 60s playing folk music and slowly turned into what he is today, which is a man of many different albums, of many different styles. He's a great songwriter. He's one of the greatest of all time, in my opinion. And I love his work because of how varied it is and just how much depth there is in every album. Let's see. I even would highlight specific bands and artists that he would name, and this thing is like super highlighted. I was there to find singers, the ones I heard on record, and then he goes on to list like 8 different people. And again, if you don't know who these people already are, it's just so confusing because then he'll be talking like, "Oh yeah, I was on a train with so and so, and then I was talking to so and so," and none of these people are ever explained. So if you don't already know the deal with him and like all the people he collaborated with and the people that he was around and was influenced by, this book can be kind of confusing. Here's another quote that I really like. Art is unimportant next to life, and you have no choice. I had no hunger for it anymore, anyway. Creativity has much to do with experience, observation, and imagination, and if any one of those key elements is missing, it doesn't work. So there are things in here that he says that are just that really click with me and really resonate with me when he kind of gets into a little tizzy and starts talking about creativity and art and making music and spreading it to the world and things of that nature. That's what makes this book worth reading to me. Those messages that are kind of hidden underneath the experiences, because you do have to think this is a autobiography slash memoir type of thing, so he is talking about his experiences and he is talking about his life, so it's only natural that he would be talking about his experiences in this book. But the little messages and little lessons and little reflections and things he kind of like looks back on and then talks about the meaning he found in that, I think that's what made this book so worth it to me. So, that is the last honorable mention we have here. Now on to the actual top 10. This copy is like so beat up. Look at this. Look at this. This one is obviously a used copy. I did not buy this new. So this is And a Voice to Sing With, a memoir by one of my favorites, Joan Baez. I love Joan Baez so much. I do not love her as much as I love Bob Dylan, but I do love her quite a bit. Joan Baez was also a folk singer during the 60s. And what makes me so, like, what I find so fascinating is the fact that when Bob Dylan and Joan Baez met, Joan Baez was more popular than Bob Dylan. But now Bob Dylan is like way more popular than Joan Baez. Why do I like this book so much? Well, there is an entire section, a small section, be it, but there's an entire section in this book talking about just Bob Dylan and her experiences because she did date the man in the 60s. So I'm going to read you some quotes of her talking about Bob Dylan since we were just talking about Bob Dylan. And then I'm going to talk about the other stuff in this book. Most of the month or so we were there, Bob stood at the typewriter in the corner of his room, drinking red wine and smoking and tapping away relentlessly for hours. And in the end of night, he would wake up, grunt, grab a cigarette, and stumble over to the typewriter again. He was turning out songs like ticker tape, and I was stealing them as fast as he wrote them. For the last line, there were quite a couple songs that Joan Baez had sang that Bob Dylan had written himself. So that's a little bit of context for that part. The people who had not heard of Bob were often infuriated and sometimes even booed him when he would interrupt the leading melodies of the world's most nubile songstress with his tunes of raw images, outrage, and humor. I would respond by wagging my finger at the offenders like a schoolmarm, advising them to listen to the words because this young man was a genius. They listened. Bob was nosing around a stand up ashtray on the other side of the lobby, looking to the artistic eye like a poet, but to the untrained eye more like a bum. I apologized to Bob, who said it didn't bother him none, but that evening, by the time the concert was over, he had written an entire song called When Your Ship Comes In. It was outraged, vengeful, strong, and lyrical. No, I'm fine. I'm completely fine, but I'm gonna go write a song about it. Nothing could have spoken better for our generation than the times they are changing. The civil rights movement was in full bloom, and the war which would tear this nation asunder, divide, wound, and irreparably scar millions upon millions of people was moving toward us like a mighty storm. Before Bob Dylan went electric, there was just him and the guitar and his disjointed, magnificent, mystical words. There are some photos in here that I'm going to show you too. Here you go. That's Joan Baez and Bob Dylan right there, the two that were singing. So like this is her when she was a little bit older. She still sings, she still is around. So why do I like this memoir? Well, you already know the context that I love Bob Dylan, right? But I love Joan Baez as well. I like this memoir because not only does she touch on her little part with Bob Dylan, but ultimately this book is not about him. This is not about him. This is about her. This is about her story and her life and everything that she did. So while I appreciate the little bits and pieces that are about Bob, I love being able to see her own story and her own tale and her own life and see her in her own sense. She was so much more than just a singer. So it's so sweet and like again these pictures get me every time. I love the pictures in this book. But yeah, no, the reason why I love this book so much and why it's here at number 10 is because I love being able to see her own story. I love being able to see her own story. I love being able to see her and her own sense of self separate from Bob Dylan and her account her own experiences and then the stuff with Bob Dylan, being able to see things from a different perspective. So that is, my friends, And a Voice to Sing With by Joan Baez. The next one we have here, again, did you really think you were going to make it through a video talking of me talking about books without mentioning Kafka? Kafka. Now, most people No, his most famous piece of work, and I even have it like tabbed on here, The Metamorphosis. The one about good old Gregor waking up as a bug. And I'm going to say bug because some people say beetle. It never explicitly says in the story if he's a beetle or a cockroach or whatever. It describes him, but it never explicitly says what bug he is. So, but this isn't about the metamorphosis. This is about the collection of body of work as a whole. Now, I would be lying to you if I told you that I didn't buy this book so I could read the metamorphosis. I would be lying to you if I didn't get this entire book because I was trying to read the metamorphosis. Because that was exactly what I bought this book. I bought this book for because I was like, oh, it has the metamorphosis in it. I want to read the metamorphosis. I'm going to read the metamorphosis. And I did read the metamorphosis. It was the first thing that I read, even though it's like, as you can see with the tab, it's like maybe like a fourth of the way through the book. I read Metamorphosis like first thing. I read Metamorphosis in December, this past December at like 5 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't go to sleep. And I read it in one sitting because it is a short story. The Metamorphosis is a short story. But the whole point of this book is to have all of his works. Well, not all of his works. They do miss his 3 novels and like his letters that he wrote to people because he was pretty popular for that as well. Like his letters to his father and other people in his life. But I like this book because it goes into all of his other works. You can read the Metamorphosis and then you can read everything else. So yeah, that's that. Kafka. The next one, Stephen King's On Writing. Now, I just finished recommending this book to a friend of mine. I just finished talking about this book. Like, I want to say, like, literally less than 5 days ago, I was talking to my friend about this book. On Writing is written by your favorite, Stephen King. Everybody knows him. He wrote it. Everybody knows it, right? Believe it or not, I read On Writing before I read it. The only quote I have tabbed in this entire book is this one. I can't read you the quote. I'm not allowed to. I don't think YouTube would allow me to read the quote. So here's a quote that I can read for YouTube. It starts with this. Put your desk in the corner, and every time you sit down there to write, remind yourself why it isn't in the middle of the room. Life isn't a support system for art. It's the other way around. So that one's just kind of like a little small thing, but On Writing by Stephen King is exactly what you think it's about. It's about writing. It's about his writing process. It's about everything he did to kind of get up to this point. He talks about his childhood, or I guess his teenagehood and his young adult life writing at first. He talks about his own process with writing, and if you know his writing style and the way that he formats and structures the way he writes, you'll know that he writes every day, constantly, all the time. He gets a book out in like 3 months. It's insane. It's actually insane. Now, I haven't been following up with him too much recently, so I can't tell you what his most recent book is or anything else like that. But like you'll be able to see little snippets and bits. Like here in this one, he's showing off like edits. He talks about having a writing toolbox, about taking everything you can at your disposal. Now, obviously, in the modern age of media and technology, we have a lot more things that we can use now. Like, obviously, he talks about like typewriters and stuff. And his younger days, right, having stuff written typed up on a typewriter. But now in the modern world, we don't really use those anymore. So, but there's some really good stuff. The main tip that I will give you, because I guess I can't really spoil it for you. I mean, it's a book on writing advice. I don't see how I can spoil it for you. One thing that he does talk about, then this advice might probably be all over the internet already, but I'm gonna say it again. Read more than you write. And the reason I'm saying that is because I need to do that too. So I'm saying it and I'm putting it out into the universe and telling you so I can do it too. So we all should read more. Even if you're not a writer, even if you're not a poet, everyone should read more on writing. You should start with that. Start by reading Stephen King's On Writing. 7. This is another really mysterious book that I found. Except this one you can actually probably find. You can actually probably buy this one. Not like the Monsters one. But English. English. This one's literally called English. And I love this book. This one's a little fiction book. I haven't found anyone that has read this book already, but people need to. So that's the point of this video. I'm giving you recommendations. I have annotated this one. I didn't even realize I had. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I clearly went through this one. English is about the Cultural Revolution, and it's about this boy that is just kind of living his life. But what I love so much about this one is that it does time skips. So, like, you see him as a little boy, and then you slowly see him grow up. But it feels so natural. Like, it feels so natural. Like, being able to jump from him being a young child to him being like an adult is amazing. So, the whole point of the story, the whole plot of the story is that he's a young boy and he has a new teacher, and this teacher has an English dictionary. And he becomes obsessed with this English dictionary. He loves this English dictionary so much. So it's kind of like just these beautiful moments of genuine a teacher doing what a teacher does, teaching. And it's just a very wholesome story about a teenage boy and his English teacher, and how his English teacher has allowed him to see the world in a bunch of different ways and kind of expand his own view and understanding of the world. And the author writes so good. And what's insane is that this is the English translation. This is not even the original book was written in Chinese. This is not even the original, and it's still written so well in English. If you understand Chinese, by all means, go read English. And if you don't understand Chinese, by all means, go read English. Moving on. Starting Point by Hayao Miyazaki. Now, why Starting Point and not Turning Point? Well, I'm going to tell you a little something. I'm going to tell you a little something that's going to sound a little harsh. I love Starting Point a lot more than Turning Point. Starting Point had so much better stuff than Turning Point did. And I'm not alone on this opinion, because when I went through the reviews for Turning Point, I heard a lot about that. So, it's not completely unknown. There are pictures in this book too. Look at these. These are so pretty. I love Hayao Miyazaki with everything. So, this book talks about Hayao Miyazaki's work from 1979 to 1996. I love the little doodle, by the way, like on the cover. Like, it's so cute. Hayao Miyazaki is the creator of Studio Ghibli, known best for movies like My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, and Kiki's Delivery Service, Howl's Moving Castle as well. But he also made movies like Ponyo, Princess Mononoke, Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind, Castle in the Sky. I've watched every single one of the Studio Ghibli films, but those are just the first ones that come to mind. And the more popular ones, my personal favorite is The Wind Rises. And I love this book because the majority of this is obviously him. So it's typically just a collection of interviews and obviously some sketches, like the watercolor sketches I showed you earlier. It's quite literally just him talking and talking and talking about not only his early career, but kind of going through plans. So at some point you can read about like his plans for making the movie Ponyo, and you just kind of go through and you get so much. You learn so much from this book. In the right hands, this book could turn someone into an animator. I truly believe that's how powerful this book is. I feel like in the right hands, this book could quite literally turn someone from just a regular artist to someone who wants to be an animator. And he does talk about his manga here, but he is an animator. So the main aspect of this book, the main concept, the main idea of this book is him showing how to be an animator and how he goes about animating things and his projects and his plans and his goals and his outlooks on life and on the art industry and on the world. Keeping it going with the creative. We have number 6, The Creative Act, A Way of Being. I had wanted to buy this book like maybe 3 times before I actually bought it. And I had seen it at a store like maybe 3 times before I actually bought it. And I bought this book because 1, I had heard really good things about it. And 2, because every time I picked up this book, I would open it up to a random page and I would find a really good quote. The work reveals itself as you go. Because in the middle of like these, there's just like random like pages that have like 1 sentence on it, and they are so impactful. Is it time for the next project because the clock or calendar says it's time, or because the work itself says it's time? I remember the first time I got this, like I looked through this book, and I flipped through a random page. I took pictures of some of these because that's how impactful I thought some of these quotes were, because I didn't know if I was going to end up buying the book. It's not unusual for science to catch up to art eventually, nor is it unusual for art to catch up to the spiritual. Beautiful. Art is choosing to do something skillfully, caring about the details, bringing all of yourself to make the finest work you can. It is beyond ego, vanity, self-glorification, and need for approval. The creative act, A Way of Being, is about more than just creating. It's more about just making art. It's about being an artist in the way that you live, in the way that you see life, in the perspective that you have. And there are spiritual connections in this book. It does kind of turn it into more of a spiritual thing, but obviously you don't have to take all of that to heart if you're not that kind of person. This is very much a book that I feel like if you're a creative, you should read it, take what resonates with you, and leave the rest. So that is number 5. We finally made it to the top 5. Oh my gosh, this is my 5th favorite book. Now, that book is very beautiful. It's very inspiring. The next book is not. The next book I'm going to be talking about, No Longer Human. Now, it feels harsh having to talk about this book right after talking about one of the most inspiring books of my life, and then right after switching to probably the most heartbreaking book that I have ever read. No Longer Human is a semi-autobiographical book following the life of Olbat. And again, this is one of those where you're kind of following him throughout his life. It's very sad. I guess sad wouldn't be the right word. More like depressing. I can read you the quote on the back. Mine has been a life of much shame. I can't even guess myself what it must be to live the life of a human being. Now, if you've been following me for a while on Instagram, you'll know that I talked about this book like literally before I even read it. And the story that goes is that I have been wanting to read this book for a while, and the main reason why was because I had heard that it was so heartbreaking, that it completely breaks your soul. And I wanted to see if it would. It didn't break my soul, but it did make me reflect on life quite a bit. The story goes, my own story, is that I wanted to read this book for the longest time, and I went to a camp and I came across this girl who had another one of his works called The Setting Sun, and I read the book. Now, was only there for a week, so I had exactly like maybe 3 days to read the book, and I said, don't worry, I'll read it in one day. No, I read it in 2 days. I read it all throughout the morning, and then I had that last little bit that I had to read the morning of the second day. But I did finish that book in 2 days. So that was my actual first proper introduction to Osamu Dazai's work. And then I was like, you know what? I need to get his work. I need to get No Longer Human. In the history of my entire time, I came into the bookstore wanting to find this book. Only this book. No other book. I walk in. I walk in maybe 10 steps. And the book it's not even facing like this. It's facing like this. It's glaring right at me. I hadn't even walked more than 10 steps into the store, and this book was looking right at me. So, because I had come into the store just for this book, I came in, I saw the book, I grabbed the book, I went and I bought it, and that was the fastest book store purchase I had ever made. And I read the book in about maybe 2 days. Now, I'm glad I read The Setting Sun and not this one on that summer camp, because I don't know if I would have been able to read this during a summer camp, if I'm gonna be honest with you. Because the Setting Sun had a big impact on me, but there was still hope in that book. This one does not have hope. This book is really good because it's very touching. Like, to the very being of your soul. But please, do not read this while you're going through a bad time. Do not read this while you're going through a bad time. Please make sure you're in a good space, in a good headspace before you read this book. That is the only thing I'm going to tell you. Moving on to my top 3. Now, you're going to be a little disappointed at this third one. Maybe you're going to be a little disappointed. It's the book I've been talking about for like forever. I just talked about this book. I just talked about Fear of Dreaming by Jim Carroll. I've read you poems from his before on the Rambled Canvas podcast. This is not the first time that I bring him up. But because I love this book so much, that's why I'm talking about him again. So, Fear of Dreaming, the Selected Poems by Jim Carroll, is a collection of works of his from, I think, like over 2 decades. He's most famous for his book, The Basketball Diaries, which ended up being a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, I believe. But I got this book when I was 10 years old, and it took me years before I actually read it, and I'm so glad I waited, because I should have. This is not a book you should be reading at 10 years old. Do not read this book. I'm so glad I did not. I think even though I bought it, it was my very first poetry collection, and that's why it's so dear to me. It's very much all over the place. So I'm gonna read you. I'm gonna read you this last page of. It's like really short. I'm gonna read you this little bit right here from Maybe I'm Amazed. But even this crumb of life I eventually surface towards continues to nod as if I see you all, thoughtlessly, through a carefully inverted piece of tainted glass, shattered in heaven and found on these streets. Now, the book, the one that I had read on the podcast, was The Birth and Death of the Sun, which is also really short, and I'm going to read it again because it's fun. Now the trees tempt the young girl below them, each moves off the other's wind endlessly, as stars from the earth, stars from the stars. Such a short one, but it's so good. I would read the longer ones. There's even a section in here where he just kind of like there's sections where he quite literally just kind of goes on little rambles and stories. And those are interesting too, but you have to be in the right headspace for them. I love the names of his poems. My Father's Vacation. It Doesn't Matter. New Year 1970. There's one just called Sure. Silent Money. Teeth Marks. Just Visiting. That's one that I quite like. I love the art piece. This is like one of my favorite paintings now because it's called Paul Klee's picture album 1937, and it's like gouache on unprimed canvas. It was found in 1948. But yeah, this book I also randomly found it at like 10. So, and it stuck with me. It's my favorite. It's my favorite thing ever. Moving on to number 2. Try to get through an entire video without mentioning Bob Dylan. Again, challenge failed. If you know me and you didn't think if you know me and you think this book wasn't going to be on this list, then you do not know me. This is Bob Dylan's Tarantula, and oh my gosh. Also, by the way, my friend made me this bookmark. It's so cute. Actually, yes. I have another Bob Dylan bookmark that she made me. But this what we have. Now this book is my favorite for the reason that it's absolutely insane. It's such a rambleness. Mind you, this book is more than anything else an exercise in the subconscious because um this book is just so silly. It doesn't make any sense at all. There are some parts that kind of do. Um I'm trying to find one that I can actually read. Okay, and these are all like these are like ginormous run-on sentences. And again, I said in the podcast episode that there was a person that gave this to me that is very dear to me. So, if you're watching this, thank you. I'm gonna read you, um, literally just a tiny little bit, and you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. Crow Jane from the wedding into the beast's nest, where wild man Peter the Greek and Ambassador Frenchie do primitive worship with hustling John from Coney striking a pose and dancing the pink velvet, all dramatics and curiously belonging to the Armenian hunchback resembling Arthur Murray. I promise you that's not a one-time thing. Trent goes by every night the same old time, and he, same old man, sits looking into a rosary which reads, I told you so, while rocking back and forth thinking about his eldest son, Hamborn, who's in jail for life, buying beer for the kids and murdering the grocer with a pocket comb. Like I said, this book is a bunch of jambles. It's a bunch of jambles, but it's so entertaining. It might as well be a comedy. It might as well be a comedy. It is a book of poems, but for context, I promise you Bob Dylan does not write like this all the time. He wrote this in the 60s when he was very much on some things. So, that is the context behind this book. But it's so funny. It's so funny. It's so funny and it's so entertaining. Moving on. Oh my gosh. I'm finally going to talk about my favorite book of all time. You finally made it. You finally made it to the end. You finally made it to the final book. You sat here and you heard me talk about every other book that I ever loved, and you're finally going to hear about my favorite one. Now, this book is my favorite book and also my favorite movie. And it's also the shortest book in this entire thing. I read this book in one sitting. It's super small. It's a novella, actually. It's not even a novel. Look how skinny it is. And now, the book that I'm going to be talking about for my top best book of all time. Okay, maybe it's not the best book of all time, but it's my favorite. Because if we're talking about the best books of all time, I realized I completely forgot to talk about one book. But I said how there wasn't a secret fifth honorable mention. There actually is. I know exactly what my fifth magical honorable mention is gonna be. Death in Venice. Both the movie and the book are good. I prefer the movie, but the book is good too. Let me read you the back of it. Death in Venice is a novella written by the German author and Nobel laureate Thomas Mann, first published in 1912. The work follows the story of Gustav, a successful but aging writer who visits Venice and is liberated, uplifted, and then increasingly obsessed by the sight of a beautiful youth, a polished teenage boy named Tadzio. This book is about mortality. This book is about beauty and art. This book is about art. This book is about the fading parts of beauty, about everything that's temporary. And the fact that this entire book takes place in the span of like a week, it feels like it's been taken part of. I think it's taken part over a week. I feel horrible for not knowing. But words cannot describe how much this book means to me. And words cannot describe how much I love this book. As much as I wish I could just ramble on about that book forever, we do not have 5 hours. So, we went through every single book, and now the honorable mention, my favorite classic, and you're going to think I'm really boring for this. I'm so sorry. This is the most popular book out of all the books on this list. And this book is so heavily annotated. The Catcher in the Rye. The Catcher in the Rye. This book has so many annotations. You have no idea. Catcher in the Rye. I feel like I shouldn't even have to explain to you this book. This book is so popular. Oh my gosh. It's so popular there's not even a back. You don't even need to know. You should already know. There's not even a summary on the back. That's crazy. I didn't even know that. Yeah. Catcher in the Rye is my super bonus, super special, honorable mention number 5. That I said I wasn't gonna have number 5, but it's just magical. I like Catcher in the Rye because I love Holden. Holden has such a weird voice. I opened this book to a random page, 182, and it's talking about Emily Dickinson. But you know, I love Emily Dickinson. He made Allie go get his baseball mitt and then asked him who was the best war poet, Rupert Brooke or Emily Dickinson. Allie said Emily Dickinson. I don't know too much about it myself because I don't read much poetry, but I do know it'd drive me crazy if I had to be in the army and be with a bunch of guys like Ackley and Stradler and Old Morris all the time, marching with them and all. Catcher in the Rye. I love Holden's voice. He's annoying. He's phony. He loves calling people phony, but he's the phoniest of them all. And I also do love the word phony. I think it's a fun word. And with that, we've done it. My notebook is closed for the day. No more things to say. This was a little card I had that had the names of all the other ones that could have been on this list. So that would have been like Bless the Blood, The Picture of Dorian Gray, Stitches, and one called The Art of Thinking. And obviously Catcher in the Rye was on here, but I forgot to put Catcher in the Rye on here. Like Catcher in the Rye, like bring it in this video, but now I have it on the video. So that is all I have for today. That's all I have for you today. I just realized that a conversation about my favorite books ended up being longer than a Rainbow Canvas episode. But you made it. You made it to the end. I will be making more videos with my face in it about different topics. And probably ones that are not as long as this one. Probably. You know my whole spiel with the Rainbow Canvas. I have a lot to say. And you can stick around, and you can tune in, or you can leave whenever you feel ready. But for those of you that stayed here the entire time and listened to me talk about my favorite books, and maybe even reached out and tried reading some of them on this list, or have already read, thank you so much. I will see you in the next one. I am so thrilled to finally have a mic, and I'm so thrilled to finally start making videos with my face in it with a nice pretty background, like my paintings, and not a white wall with bad audio quality. So, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening, watching, actually. It's not just listening, you're watching. So, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. You guys are all amazing, wonderful people. Keep reading, keep writing, keep creating. And this is UD Lynn. Bye.